Man, did the Celtics need a win like this? Build it up slowly, put in the effort, put in the work, come away with an easy one. Let's celebrate it on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamp. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining Jace, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I got you covered every Monday through Friday. This is a bonus podcast because it's a Friday night game. So happy Saturday to you. Saturday night, they're playing against Atlanta, so I'll have another podcast for you. So make sure you're subscribed. You get 7 days of podcasting. Well, that gets me into next week. Podcasts all next week, too. So, yeah, plenty of podcasts for you to subscribe to. So make sure you're doing that. Get into the YouTube section there, the YouTube page, get in the comment section, and let me know what you're thinking about the Boston Celtics beating the Orlando Magic pretty easily. So, yeah, let me know what you think. I'm John Karalis. I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years, and I am just learning how to talk. So welcome as I start to figure out how to form sentences live on a podcast. I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years. Doing it now as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. Today, Celtics win 121-94. This is a bonus podcast, so I'm not going to go too long with it, but I just want to first and foremost say this is a good response to the obviously terrible loss. That loss against Toronto was bad. I stand by everything that I said. That it was disrespectful to the game. I just feel like games like that where you put in zero effort, that's the type of game where it's like, yeah, that you deserve to lose. You deserve to get all the criticism that you get. You got to live with it, and you can't fire back at anybody that's kind of like throwing criticism your way. Now, some of the criticism, like you can push back on the overreactions, but the fair criticisms, there's a lot of fair hits out there, and the most important thing after a game like that is, how do you respond? Joe said it before the game, and it's all about the response to a bad loss. Like, how do you come back from that? Do you let it cascade? Do you wallow in your problems? Or do you come back and say, okay, you know what? Enough is enough. And Kristaps actually said after the game, it was probably a good thing that we lost the way that we did, because it forced us to take like a look at ourselves. And I mean, it's a great silver lining and an important thing to remember, that it is part of the process. Now, I if you're watching on YouTube, I made this my last bullet point, but I'm going to fold it into this. That loss against Toronto, as bad as it was, and like I said, as deserving of the criticism as they were, it is part of the process. This is January. This is the January 18th show. So this is why I did the show yesterday about, hey, react, but don't overreact. We still have to like process these losses appropriately. And not that I'm telling you how to be a fan, but I'm also telling you how the NBA works. And as bad as that was, a good response in this game was necessary. And it's what they got. Excuse me. It's what they got in Porzingis making that point about, hey, we needed something like this to kind of wake us up a little bit. It was a wake-up call. And you might say to yourself, well, why do you need something like that? Why do you need a wake-up call in the first place? Because that's how it goes sometimes. And we all know, like, if you take a good, honest look at yourself, every once in a while, we all need a little bit of a wake-up call for something. And in basketball, in pro sports, especially in a league like the NBA, it's one thing, like maybe like the NFL, where it's 17 games and you can't let too much linger. With the league, with the NBA, just the constant flow of game after game after game, it can be easy for a team like the Celtics, who are as good as they are, as talented as they are, having come off the championship, to maybe get a little complacent and to think that they can get away with a lot. I've been saying, like, a lot of games this season has felt like how much can you get away with and still win the game? And maybe they played with fire. Maybe they did the Icarus thing and getting too close to the sun, and that was their moment. We won't know if that's their moment until down the road when, how do they respond against Atlanta? How do they build on this? But going through that and then coming into this game and saying, like, look, we cannot just completely mail in games. So they came out against Orlando. It was a little bit of a slow start, but they were playing with some effort. Some shots were falling. Like, this was exactly what the Celtics needed to see. They needed to see some shots fall. They needed to have a game where they played with some effort and saw some results. This was a necessary response to that Toronto loss. And they played with good effort. They played with good effort on both ends of the floor. They crashed for offensive rebounds, right? They moved the ball. They actually had some good ball movement. They set picks from one another and read the defense and rolled or popped or slipped the screen. And, maybe it was they ghosted the screen where it looks like you're going to go set the screen and then they kind of peel off. They were actually, like, looking at what was going on defensively and trying to take advantage of it. Good basketball stuff. Was it a perfect game? Absolutely not. It was not a perfect game. They fouled too much. They made some mistakes. But this is not the game for nitpicky criticism. Well, I will say fouling as much as they did was a little bit of a problem. But regardless, I'm not gonna pick on individual, like, little plays too much in this, because what the Celtics needed was what they put forward. They ran good offense. And what do you know? If you run good offense, you get good shots. And you had good performances, like Drew Holiday was 3 of 6 from 3. He had some good looks from the corner. Al Horford got back on 2 of 3 from 3. Sam Hauser comes back and hits some shots, 2 of 4 from 3. Jayson Tatum, 4 of 9 from 3. Jaylen Brown was attacking a lot, 1 of 2 from 3. Derek White, 2 of 7, but you hit one more, you're shooting 50%, and he was right there. He got some good looks. The Celtics overall shot 17 of 37, which is great. You needed to see a game like this where a team that had been stuck in high 20, low 30% range from 3 gets a big time performance, where at one point I think they were shooting 50% towards the end there. When Tatum hit the dagger shot with like 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, at that point they were shooting 47%. They needed to see some shots fall. And they wouldn't go as far to say it was a little bit of a relief, but I still think that there has to be some level of finally the shots started to fall. I just know that when you're in a prolonged stretch, having a game where you're like, this feels good, this feels fun, this the shot, I'm taking shots and I'm making shots. That's the number one thing for a basketball player. When you take shots and you make them, that's where you feel your best. And I know some players are like, no, I'm a defensive guy, but whenever you're in a slump, a shooting slump, and you go 2, 3, 4 games where it's just not falling, it's very easy to just be like, when is this? You look, when somebody tell me when this shots are going to fall. When they finally do, it's like, oh, thank God, man. Thank God. Like, finally. So there has to be a little bit of relief there. for the Celtics. They worked the ball around. Joe, after the game, was talking about it's not just that Drew and Al hit the shots. It was the process of getting the shots. They drove, they kicked, they didn't try to force anything. They, at one point in the first half, it was funny. I joked, I'm sitting here with a couple of the other reporters. There's a few minutes to go in the first half. I'm like, how is it that they only have, I think it was like 8 or 9 3-pointers at that point? And then they took like 4 in a row. But the good part about that is the game at that point had dictated drive, attack. They were getting to the free throw line. Jayson in the second quarter was just getting past everybody. And the Orlando Magic are decimated by injuries. So that certainly helps. Great timing for a team like that to come in that has, when they're fully healthy, has a lot of size and physicality, but doesn't have necessarily the speed to keep up with Boston. And when they're this shorthanded, it just exposes that a lot more. So I'm not gonna like pretend that the Celtics had this, this amazing game plan and oh my God, this was a perfect game or anything like that. Like they had advantages, they exploited them, they faced the team that was in a bad way, and they did what they were supposed to do. So this is an important game, an important win for them. And like that's it. Like Tatum getting by Wendell Carter Jr. or Jaylen Brown getting by Wendell Carter Jr. or driving past any of these guys in the perimeter. That's what you're supposed to do. And there wasn't really a lot of help back there for Orlando. So the Celtics took advantage of it, and they took a lot of free throws. They got to the rim a bunch. Jaylen Brown was 9 of 9 from 3. The Celtics were 20 of 22. Another thing that they needed, free throws to fall. They needed shots to fall. They needed the 3-pointers. They needed those free throws. They needed to protect the ball. 10 turnovers for 10 points. Not bad. They needed to crash the boards. They had 11 offensive rebounds. They needed to move the ball. They had 25 assists. Just all these little things that the Celtics needed, they got. And even if Peyton Pritchard didn't have like the best game in the world, they got something from Horford. They got something from Hauser. They got something from Cornette. Nemish Queta made a little bit of a contribution. They did what they were supposed to do. Porzingis was really good. 7 of 10, 3 of 5 from 3, 6 of 6 from the line. It's a really good game. He looks like more of himself. He was protecting the rim. Al Horford after the game made sure to highlight that his rim protection was really, really good in this game. Tatum, like I said, 30 points, 12 of 21 shooting, 4 of 9 from 3, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, a block. He had a lot of his damage in the second quarter. Jaylen had a lot of his damage in the third quarter, where he was 9 of 9 from the line. He had 20 points, but 8 of 8 from the line in the third quarter, just relentlessly driving, attacking, putting pressure on that defense, that decimated Magic defense, and getting himself to the line. That was Jaylen in that third quarter was part of the run that put it away. 3 steals for him, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, 26 and 6 with 3 steals is a beautiful game from Jaylen Brown, who, needed a couple more to fall, but 5 of 12 is fine. 1 of 2 from 3, didn't force the issue there. That was a really good game from him. Derek White, again, he was 5 of 12 as well, 2 of 7 from 3. You get one more 3 to fall. All of a sudden he's shooting 50% from the field, 50% from 3, and the story becomes, wow, what a big bounce back game for Derek White. But he had a lot more energy in this game. You could tell that Derek was playing with a little bit more oomph in this game. He was doing his little jump. I'll give my little secret for Derek White this season is if he's doing that little kind of like hop, which I can't do on the podcast, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Sometimes after a 3, he gives that little jump, that little hop, the little bicycle with his, like he's almost like riding a bike with his feet there. If he's doing that in a game at any point, then he's having some fun. And when Derek White's having some fun, he's playing well. It's almost as if when Derek White plays well, then the Celtics are fine. I don't know if there are many games where Derek White plays well and the Celtics look bad, because when he plays well, everything kind of flows off of him, right? The energy is there when he's playing well. The energy for the whole team is just kind of matching his energy. Like he's not the best player on the team, but he might be the bellwether. Is Derek White playing really well? Yes, great. Then I think the Celtics are going to win this game. Is Derek White playing like crap? Yes. Well, we'll see. The Celtics might be in trouble here. They can overcome that, but when he's playing well, I feel like everything kind of follows suit. So he played well. Holiday was hitting shots. Horford was hitting shots off the bench. They were, like I said, they were running around, crashing, chasing down rebounds. It was just good effort all the way around. And that to me is the story of this game. So I'm not going to belabor this point very much. I think for what this game was, I don't want to make it too big of a deal because I know Orlando came in and they're kind of just hanging on, and they've done a great job hanging on. Banchero is working himself back from the injury, and he doesn't have a ton of help. And they're trying, but the Celtics did what they had to do. It was just good to see them working the offense, working with that energy, and the energy gets rewarded, right? Even if you make mistakes with the energy, if you're playing with that energy, it's ultimately going to get rewarded. If you're running good offense, you're going to get good shots, and those shots will ultimately fall because they're not rushed. They're not like, hey, somebody's standing there saying, hey, when is it my turn to shoot? I would like to shoot the basketball. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are at what age. If you're on the floor, you'd like to shoot the basketball every once in a while. So when the offense is working and everybody's getting their touches, hell, even just touches sometimes, you want to feel involved in the offense. If you're just standing there and you don't touch the ball, that impacts your energy on the other end. So I thought the Celtics offense was good. Everybody was part of the offense. And I do think that might be why that defensive energy was good. The process of getting the shots was good. The shots fell. The Celtics get to set their defense. They were active. They were communicating. Again, not always making the right decisions, but they did enough. It's a building block. The Celtics, I know it's the same team and the same guys, and it should be the same formula, except it's not. It's going to be different. And maybe they're figuring this out too, that, hey, we can't just come out and do the same stuff that we did last year because teams know that, and it's just not going to work the same. Maybe having Porzingis coming back and just starting the season without Porzingis versus starting the season with Porzingis last year changes the dynamic a little bit. Guys have just different mentalities. It's just different things happening in their lives for all we know. Like each season is its own thing. And so as frustrating as it might be for some fans, I do think that this is all okay. Individually, these games may seem terrible. And like I said, I'm not trying to minimize the Toronto loss. It deserved all the criticism that it got. But if you're responding like this, it tells me this is a team that actually cares and is actually trying to figure it out. And they're not just mailing in this part of the season. They are actually aware of the things that you're saying. They are trying to be better. And this is a step in that direction. So good response. Now, like I said, Atlanta Hawks come in on Saturday night, a back-to-back. They played both Horford and Porzingis in this game. Interesting that they did that. I feel like that might be a sign of how important this game was for Boston. Like, they're never going to say it, but I do feel like they understood the assignment here. This was an important game for them to win, and they needed to do that. And maybe they felt like, honestly, maybe they feel like with Atlanta, if you got Trae Young on the floor, the Celtics love playing Atlanta with Trae Young on the floor. They generally know how to exploit that matchup. They've got a ton of size, and that's a matchup they're going to attack. So maybe they feel good about that. Maybe Porzingis will play. I don't know. He kind of like hinted like, oh, maybe I will play. I would be surprised if he plays, but maybe he will. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But the response, especially during this part of the regular season, the response is always the most important thing. And so how they responded to the Toronto loss, very important. Now they had this win. How do you respond to that on the back-to-back? Also very important, because if you go into the Atlanta game and you play like you did against Toronto, then it all gets wiped away and you're like, okay, all right, can we get some consistency here? Don't want up and down. So Toronto game, bad. Orlando game, good. Can the Atlanta game be good? Can you go to Golden State, Martin Luther King Day game, 5 o'clock in the early start? 2 o'clock over there? Can you be good there? Can you go to LA and be good in those games? Sure, they're going to be stumbling blocks along the way, but can you be good? Can you keep building on this? What is your response to the last game? For all we know, this is the beginning of a long winning streak, or for all we know, the Celtics are going to turn around and suck against Atlanta. This is all part of the process. This is the thing that they're learning. They're learning how to win all over again. They're learning how to win as champions, taking everybody's best shot. So we'll see how they do against Atlanta. I will be here again watching this game from here. This is going to be my view for the Atlanta game. If you're watching on YouTube, I will be in the locker room afterwards. I'll be talking to the players. I'll be talking to Joe Mazzulla, and I'll be back here with a fresh podcast with that deep insight, hopefully giving you a little bit more in-depth stuff than you're going to find anywhere else. So please make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. Make sure newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Sign up for that. You get Celtics, NBA, and fantasy news directly to your inbox at lockedondaily.com. Sign up there. Get it directly to your inbox. Get into the YouTube comment section. Give me your thoughts on this win. And I would love it if you shared the podcast and told everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.